This is the Audi SQ5 Sportback, and it's here to bring some performance to the Sportback's already rather athletic design. Now, this is the first time Audi has released an SQ5 Sportback. It doesn't come as a huge surprise because coupe-like SUVs are immensely popular at the moment, and it wants to take on the likes of the BMW X4 M40D. So today we're going to see if the SQ5 Sportback is as good to drive as it is to look at. But before we go any further, if you like what you see, why not give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome videos just like this one. Design-wise, there aren't a huge amount of differences between the Q5 and the SQ5. In fact, the only ones I could really spot are we have a slightly different grille design, and also down here what appears to be a brake duct but isn't, it's actually fake, has also got a slightly different look to it. Now, this car is the Vorsprung model, the top spec one you can go for, and therefore we have gloss black around the grille, also down here, and we have these gloss black elements around the base of the car and also the wheel arches, which contrasts really well with this quantum grey paint, which is a £675 option. There's a mix of 20 and 21 inch wheels. These are the 21s, and I love them because you have a little Audi Sport logo on them, and I think that finishes it off really nicely. This being the Sportback, we have the slightly lower roofline, giving it that sleeker, more coupe-like look. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments. What would you rather go for, the SQ5 Sportback or the regular SUV, which has got a bit more bulk back here? The big difference is at the back of the car because we get a quad exhaust system. However, they're completely fake. The actual exhausts are tucked right up below under here. And there's a very good reason for that. This is the reason why. It's a diesel engine, which seems a little bit strange because in the UK especially, Audi is dropping diesels left, right and centre, particularly on its S-Line. You know, we recently drove the Audi SQ7. You can watch that by clicking the link in the top right-hand corner. That launched with a diesel engine and now has a twin-turbo V8. While a petrol engine is available in the SQ5 in other markets, in the UK we only get a 3-litre V6 diesel producing 341 horsepower. Now, admittedly, that doesn't sound a lot, but because this is a diesel, we have around 700 Newton meters of torque, which is certainly a lot. And it's also coupled up to a 48-volt mild hybrid system. And what that does is it basically fills in any torque loss with the turbocharger. It spins it up quicker so that when you put your foot down, you basically have instant engine response. Now, the engine is hooked up to an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and as you'd expect on a performance Audi, power is sent to all 4 corners. So this thing will go from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 5.1 seconds, which really isn't that bad, bearing in mind that the SQ5 Sportback weighs over 2 tons. I always think Audi has a really tough job when it comes to making its sportier cars feel more performance focused on the inside, because even the cheap Audis usually feel more sporty compared to their rivals. However, on this SQ5 Sportback, there are quite a few neat touches throughout to make it feel a bit more like a performance car. For instance, the carbon fibre around the centre console, on the dashboard, as well as on the doors, screams motorsport, and really I think all performance cars should come with carbon fibre in some way. The steering wheel is the same design that you get on the Q5 S-Line. However, you've got red stitching on the inside to just give it a slight waft of sportiness. Plus, there are S badges all over the place. There's one here on the steering wheel, one next to the drive selector, and also one on the door sills. And speaking of S badges, you get sport seats with the SQ5 Sportback, complete with the S logo embossed just below the headrests. It also helps that whoever spec'd this car chose it with the red quilted leather, because it feels so much more interesting than just your normal black on black. Other than that though, it's very much standard Q5 in here. So if you want to watch my full in-depth review of the interior of the Q5 Sportback, plus rear seats and boot space, go click the link in the top right hand corner. And speaking of the regular Q5, we should talk about Pricing, because the SQ5 Sportback carries a £15,000 premium over the regular Q5 Sportback. And there's also a £5,000 difference between the more expensive SQ5 Sportback and the regular SQ5 SUV. Of course, if you don't want to wait around for a build slot, why not check out YesAuto.co.uk, because I'm on it right now and there are plenty of deals on new and nearly new Q5s and SQ5s. So the SQ5 is all about performance, so we need to see what it's like on the road. Now, this is actually quite an interesting car in Audi's lineup, because the way it usually goes is you've got the standard car, which has either got a Q or an A before a number, Q5, A5. Then there's the mid-range S model, S5, SQ5, and then the RS versions. But there isn't actually an RS version of the Q5, and there never has been. So, as it currently stands, the SQ5 is the most powerful and bestest version in the Q5 lineup. And from what we can see, it doesn't look like there's going to be an RS Q5 anytime soon. And so you might feel a bit disappointed that in Britain we only get the diesel version, because diesel doesn't really equal performance. But in my eyes, this might be the best engine to go for. And here's why. A while ago, I drove the Audi SQ7 and SQ8, both of which come with twin-turbo V8 engines that produce 500 horsepower. They were incredibly fast, they sounded brilliant, but they were also crazy thirsty. But because this is a diesel, I've been averaging around 40 mpg. I think the official number is around 33, but if you do a bit of mixed motorway and rural roads and town driving, you're probably going to be looking at about 40, 45. And it's not slow either. Again, 0 to 60, 5.1 seconds. And because it is a diesel, you have so much torque to play with. Pretty much instantly you get a real shove from the engine thanks to that 48 volt system. And you're just basically thrown off towards the horizon. And while the engine is really punchy, it's a little bit characterless. So what you get is, when you're in dynamic mode, there is a bit of a V6 burble that is played through the speakers, but you know that's not what the engine really sounds like. This is a diesel, it's pretty damn quiet on the outside. The only sound that you do get is the slight whoosh out the back of the car from the turbo, but that's about it. There's some chassis trickery to go along with the added performance too. So you get adaptive air suspension as standard, which means that when I want it to be a sports car, things can be stiffened up, body roll is reduced a little bit, and I feel like I'm in more of a performance car. But when you want your SQ5 to react like a normal Q5, you can slacken things off in comfort mode, and it pretty much absorbs all the bumps that you could want. There's also an optional sports differential. Now what that can do is, when you're in a tight set of corners, the diff can send the majority of power to one of the rear wheels. And what that'll do is just give you a little bit more grip and reduce understeer in the corners, and make your SQ5 feel a little bit more nimble. When you're in the corners in your Q5, it really does feel very good indeed. So although that engine might not be as characterful as you'd want from a performance car, this is genuinely really nice to drive. The only letdown is really what you'll find in many other Audis, is that the steering is really lackluster. Yes, it's very direct and precise, but it's just numb and lifeless, and to be honest, that's going to be fine for 99% of drivers. But if you're like me and you really enjoy driving and you love grabbing a car by the scruff of the neck, this just doesn't quite cut it. But to be honest, the SQ5 does such a good job of playing those two roles of being a performance car, and then when you put it into comfort mode, being, well, comfortable. I'm on a horrendously pitted road at the moment, and in some cars you can get thrown about all over the place, but in the SQ5, in comfort mode, we're breezing over most of those bumps and crests. And it's being the jack of all trades that really suits the SQ5 Sportback so well, because
you're only compromising a little bit of practicality to get those sportier looks. It does drive exceptionally well when you've got it in dynamic mode, and it's also really fast. I don't think I need any more power than the 341 horsepower that is currently available. I think something like a BMW X4 M40D will be a little bit more fun to drive, but to just tick all those boxes of being a good-ish driver's car, something that's fast and is really easy to live with, I think the SQ5 Sportback really hits the nail on the head.